Hi, AP Psychology students, and welcome back. Today we are moving into a new topic in our development unit, and this topic is the social development of human beings. And we're going to focus on the social development in a couple different stages. So today we're going to be focusing on childhood development, which includes infancy and babies, childhood, toddlerhood, and parenting. This aligns with College Board Topic 3.6, Social and Emotional Development Across the Lifespan, and is the following learning objective we're going to be focusing on. Explain how social development relates to behavior and mental processes. We're going to be focusing on 3 essential questions in order to answer that objective. The first one is, how do caregiver and infant attachment bonds form? Second, what's the impact of different attachment styles on behaviors and relationships later in life? And what are the main parenting styles and how do they impact our development? So when we talk about social development in childhood, there's really 4 factors that we want to focus on in learning how they might lead to different behavioral or mental differences between children. So we focus on attachment, temperament, ACEs, which are adverse childhood experiences, and parenting styles. So first, attachment. So what is attachment? Attachment is just the bond that an infant seeks with their caregiver, right? And this is something that is innate within us, right? And not just with humans, but with all mammals. It's a survival impulse. It keeps babies close to their parents or their caregivers who are there to protect them and feed them, take care of them. And we find that attachments form very early in childhood. That's like a sensitive period for it. That doesn't mean you can't form attachments later in life if for some reason you don't have attachments in your earliest childhood, but we find that those with the strongest attachments have them in that early childhood period. So we did there was some debate about whether or not attachment was formed because of the fact that parents feed us and take care of us, they nourish us, or because parents love us and snuggle us and hold us, right? So this researcher named Harry Harlow did a study with monkeys where he removed baby monkeys from their real mom and raised them with 2 different moms. So there was a cloth mom and there's a bottle mom, and the bottle mom, was like the nourishment mom. It was where the baby got their, milk. So what they found was that despite what they thought, which is that the baby would prefer the bottle mom because it was feeding it, that baby infants actually preferred the cloth mother, right? And spent a significant more time with the cloth mother than with the wire, nourishment mother, right? And so what we realized from this is that attachment is not actually based on nourishment or feeding or providing for the baby, but it's based on contact comfort. It's based on being able to use that, attachment source, so a caregiver, or in this case, a wire mother, as a place to find comfort, a place to feel kind of cozy, and a place to feel like it is soft and snuggly, and not so much just something to get food from. Now, Mary Ainsworth is another researcher, and she wanted to study attachment differences in infants, right? But of course, we can't deprive infants of their caregivers or of their parents like we did in the monkey study. That would be incredibly unethical. In fact, someone might argue that it was unethical for the monkeys as well. So what she did is she developed a situation to measure attachment differences after they've already developed, right? And by doing this, she created an experiment called the strange situation. So in this test or experiment, what she did is she brought a mom and a baby into the lab and she had them play in the environment. Then the mom would leave the baby and then the mom would reunite with the baby. So the mom would leave for a minute, 2 minutes, not for a long time. And what she would do is she would watch how the baby interacted with this new environment, with the mom there, without the mom there. But more importantly, what they found was indicative of parenting and child attachment was what happens when the baby reunites with the mom. So that reunion, what does the baby do during the reunion? And in watching babies, with their mothers or caregivers over and over and over again, she developed 2 basic attachment styles based on the way that the baby reacts during the reuniting period. So babies are either securely attached or insecurely attached. So what does this mean? So securely attached babies explored their surroundings. They are sad when the mom leaves. They are distressed. They cry. They look around, right? However, when the mom comes back in that reunion, they are very easily comforted. It doesn't take them very long to get back to playing, to be happy again. They are able to use their mom as a base of secure, love, and they're able to use her as a calming source. Insecure attached babies are unable to do that, right? So they, in general, explore less. So you see them playing less with the things around the room. They are sad when the mom leaves for the most part, but unlike the securely attached baby, during the reunion, they are not able to use the mother to calm down. So they're upset when she leaves, but when she comes back, they can't use her as a way to calm themselves. The distress continues, and they have some very different behaviors that they do when the mom comes back. So the first type of insecure attachment is avoidant. And what we find with these babies is exactly what it sounds like. They avoid the parents. So they kind of don't either use them, they don't even look to them, they kind of are just like, away from them. They might not even like move towards the parent, but they kind of seem like almost like, sad or detached from the parent. Then we have anxious. So they go to the parent, but like they continue to cry. They cannot be calmed. They hug the parent and then they push away and they hug the parent. They have a very hard time kind of like deciding if they can connect back with the parent. They can use the parent as a secure source of love and attachment. And then there's disorganized, and disorganized and insecure attachment might look a little like avoidant. It might look a little like anxious. It might have a combination of them. It might show some fearfulness, but ultimately they also cannot kind of calm themselves down. They might go away from the parent. They might push back and forth. They might show fear, but they're not able to use the parent as a secure attachment. Okay, so the second thing that we want to think about when we're looking at the social development of babies and infants in childhood is their temperament. So their temperament is this innate emotional reactivity and intensity that you are born with. That's what innate means, right? So it's not something that parents do to babies. It's the way babies are born, right? And these tend to develop into personality traits over time. So there's three basic temperaments that we find with babies. So you have an easy baby. They're very cheerful, relaxed, predictable. They go to bed at the same time. They have consistent eating patterns. They're kind of very easy to handle. Then you have difficult babies. So these tend to be more irritable, more intense emotionally. They have bigger reactions. You would see maybe more crying, more distress, and they have very unpredictable patterns. So they don't sleep at the same time. They don't eat at the same time. And then you have some kind of like an in-between. So they're slow to warm up. So they, exactly like it sounds, they're more hesitant with new surroundings. So they're not so relaxed, but they don't have as much intensity as a difficult baby. They just adapt slowly, but they may develop predictable routines over time. And as you can see in the pie graph, it kind of breaks down. So easy babies are the most common, right? And then you have slow to warm up and difficult, and then you have that uncategorized that kind of have some difference, a little bit of each. And what they find is that these temperament differences are real in that like they actually, like there's different reactivity in the nervous system of the baby when they experience different surroundings. So a new surrounding, a difficult baby has a more intense reaction than an easy baby. What they find is that temperament impacts attachment, right? So they find that difficult babies are more likely to have an insecure attachment with their parent because it's harder to parent, right, a difficult baby who's crying and screaming and never wants to sleep or sleeps, kind of like, doesn't nap all the time or gets up all the time or doesn't have a good feeding style. However, what research shows is that it's not like if you have a difficult baby, you have to have a poor attachment. That you can learn positive parenting interventions to help with difficult babies, and that can create a secure attachment. Research also shows that early attachment impact later adult relationships. So securely attached teens and adults have longer lasting friendships, they have better romantic relationships, they're more satisfied. However, I want to put a disclaimer on this that your attachment style is not the end-all be-all determining factor in your relationships. You can learn about it. You can learn about some styles that you have, better understand yourself, better understand your attachments. You can work through different attachments that are insecure in therapy. Depending on the partner that you find, certain attachment styles might be highlighted. And so there's lots of different variations, but they do find that overall secure attachments lead to better romantic relationships. And there's a kind of a graphic here that kind of shows how different romantic relationships can be impacted by different types of attachment. All right, the next thing that can impact your social development are adverse childhood experiences. So these are potentially traumatic events that happen in a child's life. They can take different categories. You see some examples here. So abuse, emotional and physical, neglect, And then we have other dysfunctions in the household. So a parent who's in jail, a mental illness of a parent, watching a mother being treated violently, substance abuse. And what they find is that the more of these that you have, so it's about 60% of people have one of these. Divorce is an example of them. However, the more that you have, so 2, 3, 4 ACEs, what they find is that that leads to more negative health, academic, and relationship outcomes. And they think that this is connected to lasting changes in brain chemistry, like lower serotonin in the brain, or a hyperactive amygdala, or a stress can lower the hippocampus, so that could lead to academic challenges, right? So that these events in their social environment, right, lead to long-term impacts on their behavior and mental processes over their lifespan. All right, so the last kind of childhood experience to think about is parenting styles. And of course, parenting doesn't just happen in childhood, but you see parents kind of have a very significant impact on their children in childhood. So there's 4 different parenting styles that focus on different degrees of control and responsiveness. So first you have authoritarian, right? This is very like coercive, high control, low responsive, my way or the highway. Then you have permissive, right? And this is very like chillax parenting, high responsiveness. Oh my gosh, we're friends, but low control, no rules, no boundaries. Neglectful parenting is low responsiveness and low control, just completely uninvolved. And then you have what most consider to be the ideal parenting style, and this is authoritative. So this is high responsiveness, very connected, communicative, listening to the child, kind of having a back and forth relationship, but also high control, that they have demands, that they have boundaries, that they have rules and expectations for their child, right? And most parents are kind of a combination, or most parenting pairs are combinations of these styles, depending on the child and the situation. So just a note on parenting. Parenting can differ by culture and decade. So parents today are not the same as parents 50 years ago in the United States, and parents in America are not the same as parents in China, in Italy, in South America. And so parenting or positive child outcomes happen regardless of the style of parenting. So it's not like you can't have a positive child outcome if you are an authoritarian parent, all right? However, some parenting styles, like I said, do show more positive outcomes overall. Like I said, authoritative parenting, while this may look different in different cultures, the idea that you are high responsive and high demanding is the best kind of parenting for the most positive outcomes. And this is just kind of an example of how, parenting styles may differ, different books on it, what different parenting looks like in different cultures, but high responsive and high demand shows the best outcomes. All right, so today we talked about parenting, we talked about attachment, and we talked about temperament, right? So make sure you can answer these essential questions before you end this video. That's all for now, AP Psychos, and remember, psychology is flippin' awesome.